Hey everyone, this is Venki and I have the new OnePlus TV Q2 Pro. A 65-inch 4K QLED TV with 120Hz refresh rate, Google TV OS and 70-watt inbuilt soundbar plus subwoofer setup. Q series is the premium lineup of TVs from OnePlus, where the first generation Q1 series was released in 2019 with some great specs, and it also received some good feedback for the picture quality and sliding soundbar. The Q2 Pro is a major upgrade to the Q1 Pro series, both in terms of size and specifications. As a Q1 Pro user, I see so many improvements. The OnePlus TV Q2 Pro will go on sale from March 6th at an attractive price of $99,999, which was also the price of its last gen 55-inch Q1 Pro. So keeping its cost the same as last gen, they have added many features, but does that make it worth the money in today's market? Let's find out. The TV itself looks classy and minimal from the front, with a metallic soundbar running across the length of the TV and a neat OnePlus LED logo for power indication on the right. There are also 4 small LEDs to indicate the far field mic status. The soundbar though looks nice independently. I don't find it to be seamlessly connected to the TV. The display is enclosed in metal framing with minimum bezels on 3 sides and slightly larger bottom bezel similar to 65 UNS with Dynaudio co-branding. You get an immersive viewing experience while watching full screen content. The TV is center mounted with a single large base metal stand and it's super sturdy. I love the center stand as you can place the TV on a smaller tables too. All you need is a table of 45mm by 30mm in size. The TV also has a wall mount kit included in the package, so no need to purchase that separately. On the back, the TV has a power on-off switch and a far field mic switch. The major portion of the back has this frills kind of design, nothing extraordinary though. The subwoofer is placed at the backside of the TV so that it can transmit the bass to the walls. It's slightly bulky from the back to cater the LEDs and the subwoofer. The ports are placed on the other side. It has an audio video port and an RF port for older devices, 2 USB 2.0 ports, and 3 HDMI 2.1 ports, where the first one only supports EARC and the other 2 support 120Hz and VRR. So make sure to connect your console to the second or third port only. Then there is an optical port for audio output and an Ethernet port that supports up to 100 Mbps speed. As I have a pre-retail unit, I got a different remote, but the actual remote looks something like this, with a slight change in buttons rearrangement and a NFC cast logo. If you compare it with Q1 Pro's remote, this looks very basic in design, but has all the required buttons except mute. There will be a dedicated button for power instead of OnePlus acting as a power menu. Along with volume and D-pad, you also get some hotkeys for OTT apps like YouTube, Netflix, Hotstar and Prime Video. The remote runs on 2 AAA batteries. Overall, the remote is not premium from any angle, but it's handy for sure. Now, here are the major specifications of the TV before I go into the other sections. The major strength of this TV is surely the QLED display. The Q2 Pro has an IPS panel with support for a wide color gamut of 97% DCI-P3. Throw any color at the TV and it displays really well with a punch. Now there are 2 things that make Q2 Pro a perfect upgrade to previous TVs. The full array local dimming with 120 zones and 1200 nits peak brightness. It basically has a backlight with different zones behind the screen to illuminate through quantum dots and produce the desired colors. The 120 local dimming zones on the TV provide deep blacks and a great contrast ratio by precisely dimming the darker zones and keeping the bright zones intact. Here you can see in these videos that due to a good number of dimming zones, you do not get much of a blooming around the bright subjects in dark backgrounds. It has 15 zones horizontal and 8 zones vertical, providing great blacks that are generally achievable with OLED TVs. I really enjoy the deep blacks on this TV. Also, this TV is pretty bright compared to the TVs I have used till now. When I tested the HDR peak brightness with a lux meter, I got around 225 lux with 1% window, 570 with 4% window, 689 with 9% window, and it touched 1140 with 25% window. Then it went down to 753 for 49% window and 395 for 100%. So definitely a bright panel, and I generally have to reduce the backlight while watching it. The SDR average brightness was around 394 lux. The TV also supports HDR10, HDR10+, HLG and Dolby Vision. The HDR output from the OTT apps is generally darker compared to SDR, but provides a great depth to the picture by pushing the details in the background. You finally get HDR and HDR10+ logos too. There's one issue during HDR with local dimming. The dark scenes become too dark, making the subjects disappear. As you can see, turning off local dimming helps see Joker's face, but we lose the blacks. This definitely needs to be optimized to reduce the aggressive dimming with HDR content. Now, another thing I find disappointing is that Dolby Vision PQ modes do not allow control of local dimming. Netflix and Hotstar both majorly have Dolby Vision content. Having a FALD panel and not being able to keep local dimming high is a loss, but this has to do more with Dolby than OnePlus. The local player this time is really good and capable of playing any HDR content without a sweat. But when Dolby Vision videos are in vMPEG format, then it doesn't decode. You have to use a third-party player. The TV also has MEMC for reducing motion blur while watching any sports or movies. It also has a demo mode to see how it works with and without MEMC. The MEMC works decent for me most of the time, but I might be picky. I see that the motion smoothness drops in between for a couple of seconds, as you can see here in the video, and it does bother me. Not something that everyone might observe, but this was much better on Q1 Pro as much I see. The skin colors are also sometimes going more on the pinkish side to my taste when not in movie picture mode, but the advanced picture settings help in tuning if required. There are multiple picture presets to choose from. I personally stick to movie mode most of the time due to its natural color tones, but even standard and AI PQ mode are good if you want little more vibrancy in the picture. Coming to watching content from set-top box, as it's a 65-inch TV, it's obvious that Full HD content or above would be best suitable for viewing. Watching HD channels is enjoyable with very good clarity. Even content playing in 720p seems fine to an extent. There is also AI Super Resolution that is supposed to upscale low resolution content for a better viewing experience. As per my testing, this doesn't do much than sharpening hair and eyes for most scenarios. A little more addition of sharpness to the scene would have helped in my opinion. The viewing angles on this IPS panel are great if you're watching any bright content, but for any TV with local dimming on, it's always better to watch from the front for the best output. The colors remain intact at extreme angles, but the brightness in some instances get affected. As soon as I saw the subwoofer when unpacked this TV, I was sure this soundbar is gonna impress me, and it did. It has 7 units set up with 2 speakers for left and right, 4 tweeters with 2 tweeters in the front and 2 in the side, and one 30-watt subwoofer. The speaker is loud and I generally have to keep it only between 35 to 40 max. It has very good balance in lows, mids and highs. Be it music or movies, the voices and the background scores are pretty clear. The left and right separation is also great too. The major attraction gotta be the subwoofer. It provides fullness to the audio and you can even feel slight tremors on your sofa. Except for the true surround experience I get with my dedicated 5.1 soundbar, I did not miss anything else. I use surround sound mode as I find it to be the best, and there's an option to control subwoofer too if you love or hate bass. Here are some sound samples I recorded by keeping the mic at the position I generally set. For the Dolby nits, this TV supports Dolby Atmos and Dolby Digital Plus, but not DTS. And also there's a catch. Right now it only supports Dolby Atmos through local media playback, and that too if it's in DD Plus container, and not True HD. Even though Netflix, Hotstar and Prime Video show Atmos logo in the title, there's no Dolby Atmos or Dolby Audio logo pop-up while playing through inbuilt speakers. Hopefully this will be rectified in the future. But if you're using a HDMI device like a set-top box or a PS5 or anything, you get Dolby Atmos or DD Plus support with the inbuilt speaker too. And for the users with their own sound system using ARC, you can enjoy even lossless Dolby Audio on OTT apps and HDMI devices. Now this TV is console ready. Thanks to the HDMI 2.1 ports and the 120Hz native panel, you can connect any console that can take advantage of it. I majorly used with PS5 and it supports ALLM, VRR and 120Hz mode as soon as you change the signal mode of the HDMI to 2.1. I played games like Dirt 5, Uncharted Lost Legacy, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which support 120Hz and VRR. The experience was amazing, both in terms of display and sound, as I could experience the improvement in the audio too. Playing a game at 120Hz on such large screen is a different experience altogether. The HDR is good too, but by default the brightness is on the lower side with PS5 and I had to calibrate to increase it. The contrast ratio is also superb while playing games. I even tested briefly with Xbox Series X, and this TV supports Dolby Vision game preset for Xbox. This preset helps in boosting more brightness to gaming. But I personally found Xbox having limitations on supporting 120Hz, 4K, HDR, VRR altogether, as some games support 120Hz only at 1080p and some games support Dolby Vision but only at 4K. This is not an issue with the TV but Xbox itself. Overall, if you're a gamer and looking for a console-ready TV, then this one has everything. I even tested the input lag with the normal picture presets, and you can see that there's a good amount of input lag. But as soon as I switch to a game mode, the input lag disappears. You can pause the video to see the difference in milliseconds to know the input lag in game mode. Not the accurate way, but makes you understand how good or bad it is. The TV runs on the latest Google TV OS 11. The home screen is filled with recommendations and suggestions along with some large ad banners sometimes. Different tabs for movies, series and apps. The Play Store app itself is hidden, but you can find the apps by searching in the app section. But if you're annoyed with searching from here like me, you can ask the voice assistant to open Play Store app. There's also a dashboard this time with some nifty quick access options for inputs and picture settings. One more good thing is that you can have multiple profiles and quickly switch between them to have your personal watch history and suggestions. There's also Kids mode designed by Google with lots of parental control and neat themes to have a safe watch time for the kids. Google has put a lot of thought into designing this and it works most of the time pretty well. There's also an apps only mode where the home screen shows only the banners and the list of apps, removing all the recommendations in case you want a minimal home screen. The MediaTek 9617 chipset along with 3GB RAM provides a very smooth user experience. Except for minor hiccups here and there, I did not face any issues in terms of performance. It takes around 30 seconds to boot up, but you can keep it in sleep mode if you want to skip the delay. Memory management is great too, as it can keep 3 to 4 apps in the background without any issue, which is a great thing for a Google TV device. The overall settings are revamped on the Google TV OS with more of a page-over-page pattern. Even though this looks more polished, I hate that this covers the whole screen. The storage space we get for apps and games is around 26GB out of 32GB, which is more than sufficient to install all the games and apps. The ambient mode is one of my favorite features to use your own photos as screensaver. You can control the devices that can connect to the TV and even turn off Bluetooth if you don't want it. The TV also has a new screen of play feature that can be used with YouTube, Amazon Music and few other music apps to make use of the soundbar and not waste the display's energy. The TV features quick pair option with OnePlus Buds and can be easily controlled from OnePlus Watch. There's also far-field mic inbuilt in the TV, so you can control the TV hands-free. The mic generally picks voice pretty well, except when the speaker is playing loud. Okay Google, open Hotstar.
Opening Hotstar.
Okay Google, turn my AC on.
Got it. Turning the bedroom AC on.
There's Oxygen Play app to get recommendations if you're not satisfied with the ones on the Google TV home screen. This has more tabs to categorize content in a better way. And finally, the new Connect app 2.0. It can be used from any Android phone to control the TV and use many of its little features like multicasting, local video playback, screen time, data statistics, file transfer, and memo board to send messages to the TV. The remote page offers all the functions that the physical remote provides, along with a screenshot and GIF feature. This is truly appreciable that there is a virtual gamepad inbuilt in the Connect app to play games, but unfortunately it's half-cooked and doesn't work in a majority of the games. I'm not going in depth into the functionality of the Connect app as I have explained it in detail in many of my previous videos, so do check them out if you are interested. The major thing is that OnePlus has fixed all the major issues that were present with Q1 Pro, so glad to see that. To conclude, this TV puts me in a state where the heart says one thing and the mind says other. The TV has everything you need in terms of pictures, sound, smartness and gaming ready. Also all this at a great price. But then the mind reminds me about the service. The premiumness of the TV is only limited to the product and not the service. It's not like you're buying a furniture that can stay intact for years. After sales is an important and crucial part of electronic products, and OnePlus seriously lacks in this aspect. They have said that this will improve a lot in the next couple of months. We have to wait and see. But in the 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh range, one can get 55-inch OLED, Samsung frame or Samsung Q70, LG QLED. That might lack a couple of features but are from an established brand with wide after-sales network. Don't get me wrong, the TV is best OnePlus made till now, but I personally feel that they could have made a non-pro version and priced it around 70k. Then it would have been a great buy just for the display, as not everyone wants all the features. Still, I'm quite happy with the TV and glad that OnePlus delivered a premium product which the Q series stands for. This TV is for users who want everything packed in the TV, be future-proof and do not want to buy a soundbar separately. A complete package for the niche. I hope I covered all that you were looking for. Please do like, share and subscribe as a lot of effort has gone into making this video. If you have queries, let me know in the comments. Take care.